live from parts unknown. You're listening to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast on the planet, we think. Sit back, relax, prepare for positivity to run through your veins as Simon Miller gives you your weekly dose of powerful pro wrestling audio. It is Miller Time.
Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show. My name is Simon Miller and this is a pro wrestling show. Thank you very much for joining me. I think it's the third episode we've done this week as I try and make sure I get all the lovely people that support me on Patreon and the podcast. And of course, that is a cheap plug. You can do that as well. You head over to patreon.com/Simon316. There's a bunch of rewards that allow this podcast to exist to begin with. Like I say, I always like to give something back. And one of the rewards is you can come on the podcast. So check that out. Also on Twitter and Instagram at Simon316, youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules, and you can buy some of my wrestling merchandise at simonmiller.bigcartel.com. Got some brand new 8x10s, actually look like wrestling 8x10s, and not me mucking around at a kid's birthday party, which is what they looked like before. But hey, we're growing. That's what the wrestling journey is all about. Every step, hopefully, we get a little bit closer to the dream. It is technically the third episode of the week, and we always make sure we do get a Patreon, as I just said. And today, I'm very happy to say, coming back, my good friend Lanai. Lanai, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. How have you been since we last chatted? A lot has gone down in the world of wrestling since we last chatted.
A lot has gone down. Yeah, it's been a crazy keeping up, but it's also been great because there's been a lot of new people and stuff on the scene. So it's been exciting to learn about new folks and all the stuff that all the different promotions are doing. It's just really great. It's a good time to be a fan. There's a lot out there. No matter what you prefer, there's something for you. So it's been great.
I totally agree, and I think right now we're in a actually, without wanting to break the walls down too much at What Culture HQ, we were discussing the plans for the end of the year, earlier this week, because obviously October time is when everything is going to get very fun, or so it seems. We are going to have obviously SmackDown moving to Fox on the 4th, and there's nothing confirmed, but on the 2nd, it certainly does seem like that's when AEW's Wednesday night show is going to start. 2 hours. We don't know any of this. This is all rumors and speculation. And I'm really excited about it. The more I thought, I was having a conversation with someone the other day. I am starting to think that it's going. I mean, what a week is that? That's going to be. On Monday, you're going to get Raw. We're used to that. Mondays and wrestling go hand in hand. But then we're going to have a kind of an interesting shift where SmackDown will vanish within that 24-hour period, and we'll have to wait till the end of the week to get our SmackDown fix. But then taking its place in the middle is going to be AEW, which right now hasn't really put a step wrong. There's nothing major there to say that it won't be a big deal. And I was just thinking about it. I was like, I'm ready for this. I think this is really exciting.
It's really exciting. I think what will happen, especially because, SmackDown's going to be on Fox, and that's over here in the States, that's a major, TV network. I think we're going to see wrestling become more mainstream, like, maybe more mainstream in the way it was in the past, where, you see, everyday people know what's going on with stuff, or they've at least heard of some of the wrestlers and stuff. And so that's really, great. And having AEW and stuff as well, like on Turner, that's also huge. So it's just gonna expose the quote unquote the business to more people, and that'll be great because that means more people will come in and will do that. Sometimes that can be a little crazy too, but I think it's great. It's kind of nice to be able to plan. It's also nice to have a little break too, right? So you have like maybe Tuesday night you can go off and do something else with your family or loved ones or whatever, or friends, and then Wednesday, because it was kind of like Monday, Tuesday, you had pay-per-views on Sunday. Everything's kind of scrunched together, and then that's what people say, that they don't have enough time to watch everything. And so now having stuff spaced out a little bit, which should be pretty good to allow us to enjoy some more wrestling, actually.
Do you think you'll watch all three? Like, obviously, it's going to depend on quality, but, with that extra 2 hours shoved in the middle, which, technically could be on the same night as NXT show.
Yeah, that when I heard about that, I was like, oh, no. Because, there's something, I don't know if that's like an American thing, or I don't know if this is like a WWE thing. I don't know if they're just, there's this idea here, like if there are two shows with a similar audience, they like to put them on at the same time to see, like, who can get a better audience. And I always just feel like program stuff so it's on different nights so people can enjoy all of that, everything, and so that it's not like going up against something. And we've had that in the past with sitcoms and stuff like that. And then, what happens sometimes is that good shows get canceled because of that. So, and that won't happen in this case, but people get burned out basically. And so I was, kind of sad to hear that might go up against each other, but it's just, I don't know. It's all good though. I will try to watch all three in the beginning just to see if I can keep up. But like, I think everybody has their line where it's like, I'll watch this, and this, and this is great, but I can't watch this, or maybe I'll dip my toe in this from time to time. Like, I don't watch NXT and I don't watch NXT UK because it's too much, but I know it's always there on the network. That's where the network's really great, because I can always just say, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch, these things at a different time. So even with the NXT stuff, if you want to watch AEW, it's cool. So the next day or whatever, you can go back and watch stuff. I think also, if you are the type of person who's like, you're not going to be on the internet where you might be spoiled about stuff, it might be a little bit easier, because then you can just kind of go and watch those things. And it's not like, I have to see this now, or I'm going to be spoiled about what happens. So
I think it depends how you feel about spoilers. Like, I understand that people hate them, but because in my world, I don't really care about spoilers. And that's a strange thing to say, but I'm just like, okay, it would have been better if I hadn't heard, but now I have. If it sounds good, I'll still enjoy it. But that's the main thing, isn't it? Like, how happy are you to have something spoiled for you? But they do it over here as well. Like, we had the X Factor and we have Strictly Come Dancing, basically 2 reality TV shows. And they were always moving their programs to go head to head on different channels. Like, what are you doing? You're going to get a bigger audience if you stay away from each other. But, that's just entertainment law for you, I guess. It's, it's not build the other one up. It's tear them down.
Exactly.
Tear them down and kill them.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's not, there's enough people for all of the slices of pie, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just a frustrating thing. So, but I'm also glad that, no one at Turner's like, let's put this up against Monday Night Raw, or like whatever, like, cause you never know what people are, thinking, sorts of crazy, things like that. But, it's also just interesting as well. No matter how much stuff is on, it's just an interesting time, because it's like, oh, it's a war, it's this, it's that, but it's just, I don't know, it's opportunity. That's the way I look at it. And like I said, exactly. Everyone has their line of how much saturation you can, get to.
No, I do. I agree. And I am looking forward to it. And like I say, the war, if we want to call it a war, is already on, because some news that broke about half an hour ago, the Wrestling Observer newsletter is out if you're into those kind of things. But they are reporting with a lot of, this shouldn't come as a big surprise given recent events on Raw, but they are reporting with a lot of confidence that Gallows and Anderson, the club, who obviously just reformed with AJ Styles, have agreed to and signed or about to sign new 5-year contracts, which is interesting, because I remember earlier in the year they certainly turned those down. So you have to start wondering, what happened there? What's the change? What's the shift? I mean, I imagine they offered them a lot of money, but a 5-year deal for those two guys, given how they've been used over the last 3, I think is a bit of a risk. And I would never talk down or insult anybody for signing any kind of a deal. I made that video on What Culture about that, which people misunderstood as ever. But yeah, I mean, it's good right now, and the club is great, but that's not going to run for more than 12 months at a maximum. And I guess my worry is, if one of definitely the areas I think WWE needs to focus on is their tag team division. The belts get thrown around the place. The women's tag team belts don't even exist right now. Gallows and Anderson must know their real worth and their real stock is going to be how WWE treats it. So my point just being is that I found it surprising. But yeah, Gallows and Anderson signed 5-year deals with WWE.
It's a risk. Like, the other thing too is I kind of feel like it's like everything is fine until you sign, and then once they own you, it's like, okay, they can do anything, and they have a history of being petty, sadly. And 5 years is a long time in a number of, from week to week to week of having to do crazy things. But something that I had never thought about, some people, I was talking to a friend of mine and they were like, there's some people who they want the security of that. The other thing too, just as an idea to think about, if AEW is saying we want to focus on tag team wrestling, and they have the Young Bucks and they have all these other groups and fantastic tag team matches that they've had on the pay-per-views and stuff before, just as we're talking about the competition of putting a TV show up against another one at the same time, maybe WWE is like, okay, you know what? You want to say you're the best at tag team wrestling? Well, we actually are going to actually put some effort into our tag team area, and we're going to take you on with that. And, signing Gallows and Anderson again, maybe that's something that I don't know, that's a speculation. This is, on my part, but like maybe that's something they said to them. We're going to really try and build up this tag team division. We want you to be a real true part of that. And, we're going to, see what happens. But I mean, for Gallows and Anderson is you could be very miserable for 5 years. And I'm not even just the 5 years. It's just week to week to week. It's like, because it's just from one week to the next, you don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to bury you or, anything. But I also think that WWE needed to do that because, especially in light of kind of like the Ambrose, like the comments and stuff like that, if that like the morale and stuff has been really bad in the back, and you start to be able to turn around some of these folks who were like, no, I'm leaving, and you're doing petty stuff like adding time onto people's contracts and stuff like that, you need to have some examples of, okay, these people decided not to sign, but now we're going to do all this stuff. And now they're signing, but then they also have to back that up by treating them with respect and like actually giving them stuff and, things to do. But the numbers to me are never there, in that they have such a deep roster. You can't make everyone happy.
It's such a good point.
And giving pushes to everyone who's like, okay, if you sign with us, we're going to give you a push. Well, how long are you going to give them a push? Like you say, if this storyline lasts for a year, you got 4 more years of what are you going to do? So it's a weird, interesting problem that I think they have. And maybe, now they have all this new leadership on the different shows and stuff, if they're going in a direction where they want to elevate the tag team wrestling, then, that actually, from the opposite side provides a lot of opportunities, but they actually have to act on it and do it. And so far they haven't shown that. But I think they have to, especially as there might be people backstage who are unhappy. They have to show that they're more than just pettily kind of doing stuff to folks. They have to show that they are going to, take care of people in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my worry. I mean, this is me playing devil's advocate more than anything, but my worry would be if I was in a tag team, okay, they're saying all this nice stuff, but where's the evidence? Where, like, you've said this so many times, and so many times you've let me down. And again, like you said, 5 years is such a long time to take a risk. I mean, do they have a get-out clause if they don't feel their creative is being used correctly? And if, that is the case, who decides that? Like, it's like when you say who polices the police. I mean, who decides if their creative is good or not? So look, I'm happy for anyone that signs a new deal. I think it's completely up to them. I don't understand these, how dare you do that? You do it for yourself, you do it for your family, you know what you want. And if, Gallows and Anderson have been given good assurances, then, and look, that's what we all want. I love Gallows and Anderson, I love the club. If this means we can finally get some good tag team wrestling, I mean, this ties into the whole thing I was talking a minute ago about the war. That's another reason why the war is working. I'm not just talking about ratings or financials. I'm talking about, again, one of the reasons we're seeing more swearing on Raw and SmackDown right now is because WWE thinks that kids and teenagers, I should say, like that, and they're terrified they're going to lose their teenage demographic to AEW when it starts. So if they think that tag team wrestling is also going to play a factor in that, they're going to start pushing tag team wrestling so they don't lose that to AEW when AEW starts. That's the war. And that seems to be what a lot of people are forgetting about. They're so used to the WCW versus WWE stuff. It's different. 2019 has changed the world. And, talking about contracts as well, I'm just going to, give you the headlines that I read earlier about from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is the whole, obviously, and I want your opinions on this anyway. No, but the Maria Kanellis situation, that kind of, got let off a lease this week, as everyone said, she was pregnant and then she signed her deal. As ever, that wasn't true. That was made a big rumor mill of, because she found out after she had signed. Yeah, after she had signed her deal. That's just one of those things.
Oh wait, so she really is pregnant.
Yeah, she is. She is really pregnant. And as always, the internet went this, that little, feisty so-and-so, she didn't tell WWE. No, she signed a deal, and then realized she was pregnant. That happens in life. And I guess because we live in the crazy world of WWE, they decided, hey, we can do an angle with this. We're trying to put Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch as a couple. We can use that and so on and so forth. So my point being is that they've also signed 5-year deals. And for them, at least, it certainly seems like it's going to to pay off. But the reason I wanted to bring that up as well, because I'm trying to get everybody's opinions about it. What did you think about the Maria Kanellis pregnancy stuff? What do you think about Seth and Becky being this on-screen relationship? I would say that I'm not entirely on board with Rollins and Lynch as an on-screen couple, because just at the moment, I think it hampers both of them as opposed to pushes them up. But I will say, one of the big things I've thought about ever since Raw went off air was the Maria and Mike Kanellis thing. I think I quite like it. I think I quite like Jerry Springer ridiculousness. I can't stop thinking about it. I think it's just so weird and it's so different. And I think right now I'm so desperate for anything different that it's got me intrigued. Who's going to be the father of the baby? In the realms of the story, is she actually pregnant? How does this tie into Mike Kanellis? I have so many questions, and I quite like it.
So when it happened, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, me too.
No,
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
And I was just like, oh, my gosh, they really are trying to do, like, 90s Attitude Era.
Yeah.
So my reaction was, and this is going to be, like, a little bit weird to explain. I don't know if everyone has seen this, but there was an episode of South Park in which the kids go to a wrestling show and then they want to be wrestlers. And then
I know this.
And then they go to the school wrestling thing and realize that's not the type of wrestling. So they start their own wrestling company. And basically it's just all the soapy, just like, storylines like this. And Cartman is basically like, I'm pregnant. And then, I lost a baby. I did this. And that's exactly what I thought. I thought this is the episode of South Park. And we have poor Maria say like this whole thing. Now, I think she did. I was not watching when she was on originally, so I don't know anything about her. But I thought she delivered it great. And she I was just like, oh, that's rough. And I felt bad for Mike. So I was like, so they worked me in that way. I was just like, oh man, that's like weird. I think it's where they take it and how they deal with it, right? Are we going to do a Maury Povich like DNA thing? Like how are they going to work with this? But the other thing I thought about is like, well, they're on TV. Like they've been talking about they weren't on TV. They weren't having opportunities to do stuff. So let's see, where that goes. It's funny because I would think it would be dangerous for you to be in that environment. I mean, obviously you can't wrestle, but it's kind of like, if they could still find a way for her to be involved, that actually might be interesting. That's something that, probably hasn't really been done. But the Becky and Seth thing makes me cringy. It's kind of a theory of, there's a theory that when people do reality shows as a couple, they break up.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
And so, even with the Biz and Maurice, I was like, no, don't do a reality show. I love you guys together. Don't do it. So there's that aspect of it. I was just like, oh, this is not, The other thing is, I don't think they've been dating that long. So I feel like it's let them be and develop what they, want to relationship-wise before shoving them into a thing. Now, apparently, according to one of those interviews with Seth, he says, that, they brought it to them and asked them if they were okay, and they laid down some options, and they came up with some stuff themselves. But whenever people say stuff like that, I'm always kind of like, but could you say no? Could you really say no to them and not have any backlash if you decided that you didn't want to do this? The thing that's really weird is, and also good, they're both champions, but their championships now will forever be defined as this weird coupley bit together. And they're not able to develop their own championship runs on their own. And that's for the both of them, right? And it's funny, I was talking to a friend because she was just like, I hate this. Is now Becky is defined that, she's, Seth's girlfriend, which they've done very tactfully to always kind of say oh, he's, the man's man or Becky Lynch's boyfriend, as opposed to, turning it around and just kind of she's some weird arm candy or whatever. And Seth seems to be down with that. And so that is good. But I just think it kind of damages both of their individual championship runs, and they're not going to have the belts forever. So they're not going to have that time to kind of pull that, to create their own story around their own run. Right. And the feuds that they're getting, because that's the other thing too, that I find interesting, since they've both won, the feuds that they have had have not been, I don't know, in my opinion, dynamic enough to raise themselves or the belts up in a way, right? Like, I mean, Becky's is a little bit different because I think everyone was so excited for her to win and so excited for her. I was excited when she had the 2 belts. I was, and just even the one, like, I think that, that's a different thing, but I just feel like, when you like a couple years from now, right, when you guys at What Culture are doing a best championship runs or whatever, I don't know that they'll make that list with the storylines that they've been given and with the feuds that they've been given. So now we're doing a bunch of mixed, tag matches and stuff, which is fine, but I don't know. This is like, so Lacey and Baron Corbin are their like the Lex Luthor to their Superman. Like I don't. It just doesn't like, I don't know. It's not that great. And I think that's more damage for Becky though, for her. But the funny thing is, I say that, but also knowing like she's a badass and people love it. And I work at a college, and I see a lot of people with wrestling shirts on, like students, and like we have a lot of construction going on, so some of the construction workers and stuff have them. And I see guys wearing Becky Lynch shirts, like, and I was just like, that's pretty cool, like, you know what I mean? So like, she is popular, she is over. Maybe she can withstand that, but I don't want that to affect their legacy later on down the road. But I did just see that apparently Andrade and Zelina are gonna fight them, and I was like, I want to see that. I think that could be really, really good. So it's not the mixed tag match thing. It's just the like, this is the storyline. Like, it just even I first of all, I have to say I absolutely love your this is not how people talk on the recap, because that's exactly what I was saying. And so even like Lacey's like, Seth Rollins, kryptonite is Becky Lynch. Like, it's like, this is stupid. It's like, no, like it's just dumb. I don't know.
It is dumb.
Find that storyline with them dumb, and like the whole Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans just separately or together is just insane. But Andrade and Zelina Vega versus Becky and Seth, I'm here for that. I want to see that. That sounds fun.
But that sums it up, right? That sums up the problem with having Baron and Lacey in that spot is, and I don't mind either of them. Like, I really, really don't. I know some people are super down on them, but my point is that the reason Zelina Vega and Andrade would work is because they have a history together, and you've allowed them to build them up, and you accept them as a couple, and this and that, and that's the issue, is the fact that the first thing that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are doing together is based on feuds that they've already won in their own individual worlds. So why on earth they now want to take them on again as a couple is absolutely irrelevant. With Andrade and Zelina, again, we know that as a force, when they come together, they're better together than they are separately. And I'm hoping this is just something to get us through Extreme Rules. Obviously, when that was first announced, we didn't know about the Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff stuff. So I'm now hoping that plans are going to change. Extreme Rules will act as a getting off point, for lack of a better term. And we can just put Becky Lynch back to do her thing, and we can put Seth Rollins back to do his thing. I mean, the thing I always go back to, and I don't like to compare everything to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I know Steve Austin had everything with Deborah, but that was as a heel character, I want to point out. But, when Steve Austin was pitched this idea of having a love story with Sable, Steve Austin was like, no, because I just want to focus on me kicking ass. That's it.
Yes, exactly.
I just want to be a kick-ass machine. That's the only side of me I want to show. And I think there is something to that. I do like relationship storylines. Again, but I think that the story has to be on the relationship itself, as opposed to just coming together because you're together. Coming together because you're together. But the imploding of the superpowers, the mega powers, sorry, with Macho Man and Hulk Hogan and Elizabeth. I don't think that would fly nowadays, because in many ways Elizabeth she took a back seat and she was almost used to progress that storyline. However, I guess that did work because she was the manager, right? She wasn't a wrestler, so you could make her look vulnerable and it was okay. She was just the manager. But that's what you need to do. One of them needs to seem vulnerable so you can buy into it and worry about the other person. But you don't want to do that to Becky Lynch, because that destroys her whole character. She doesn't need to be looked after. And you don't want to do that to Seth Rollins, because unfortunately we still live in a world where people... Look, what's the first thing that WWE did when they made this couple? Baron Baron Corbin told Seth Rollins to go make Becky Lynch a sandwich because apparently if you do that, you're not a man. It was like, Baron Corbin, I know, like you are allowed to make a woman a sandwich, Baron Corbin. It's okay. It's okay. We've moved on. We're in a brand new place. So that's the point. You can't do it that way because WWE would just go down that route, and I'm like, no, I definitely don't want to watch it. I hate that stuff. It's pointless. It's so antiquated. It doesn't work. So that's the issue. I just don't see. I can't think of any kind of scenario where they could do this that actually results in better television as opposed to just letting them have decent title reigns by themselves.
Yeah, no, and the thing like with Baron and Lacey is just like, so like Andrade and Zelina don't have any belts or anything like that, but I believe them as heels more than I believe in Lacey and Corbin. Like, to me, they have more, like, because they're treacherous, I just kind of feel like I believe them more as a viable opponent for them than Lacey and Corbin, who just kind of throw around a bunch of platitudes and don't really back that up by a lot of stuff. So, but if Becky wins, I think because Baron told Seth to, make her a sandwich, I think because he has his whole Applebee's manager thing going on, maybe she should make Baron bring her an order of mozzarella sticks or something. I don't know, like, if they win. But the other thing too is just like, I'm tired of this already. Like you said, they've already won those feuds. It just so happens that Raw is going to be in New Jersey, in Newark, which is not far from me. And you get the email if you're in the area, like, oh, there's tickets available, which is not a slam on the like attendance. It's just that, like, they always do that. And so I was thinking about going, and then I looked, they actually tell you the card for Monday, and I was like, oh, great. It's like 4-way match between Seth and Baron and Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley, and then it was Becky versus Lacey for the championship. And I was just like, what? Like, this is, it's too many times, too many times. And there are too many good people in the back to keep having this. So I'm hoping that Extreme Rules just kind of ends that, and then they can both maybe individually move on to other stuff. The other thing that bothers me about the relationship thing is, I forget the name of it, but there's like I forget, it was like the Bletchdale test or whatever. Like, nothing that the women do in storylines in WWE is like for their own kind of like promotion or advancement, right? There's always a man involved or a friendship with another woman involved or something like that. There's never like, I'm the best wrestler here, and so challenge me. Like, if you're a champion or whatever, it's like, oh, I was friends with so-and-so and now I'm not friends with them, or you were, this or that. And I feel like the Becky and Seth thing kind of, again, taints Becky's kind of like allure and that as well. It's like, so now her story is that her and her boyfriend are fighting people, even if they try to elevate her higher, that she's coming in to save Seth, and she's coming in, like, in any other era, like, and it's a horrible thing to say, but it's like, Seth would be laughed out the building. Oh, your girlfriend had to come and save you? Like, you're supposed to be the guy, the best person in the world, the best wrestler in the world. But, and I understand, like, there's the whole chivalry thing of, like, he wasn't going to punch her. But I literally, this sounds horrible, I was like, hit her with the chair, just so that we can move away from this and we don't have to have this. And I know that that's wrong in itself, and I know they would never do that because I'm sure Snickers or whoever is the sponsor wouldn't be down with that. But I was just like, I can't take this. So I'm just trying to get through Extreme Rules, see where they go, either together or not. Because I assume that even past this feud, this relationship story is going to evolve in some other way, and we'll see, how it goes. I just don't want them to, quote unquote, break up on screen and then they have to slink around backstage or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in real life, like, they're not together, but they're really together.
What if they break up in real life as well? What kind of problems is that going to go? One goes, the brand split comes back. One goes to Raw, one goes to SmackDown straight away.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned Braun Strowman too. I better not hear or see Braun Strowman on any WWE programming for at least a month after what happened on Raw. Like, I think this is a real seminal moment where we can actually start telling people again, if bad stuff happens on our TV shows, if somebody gets properly hurt, we are going to take them off for a while. Like if you're telling me that Braun Strowman got blown up and ruptured his spleen and he comes back the following week, I'm going to be pissed off as a wrestling fan. I'd be like, what do you want me to believe in? I know.
But no, it's true. And the other thing, too, is that they never play that stuff into the actual wrestler storyline. So, like, you could say, like, he comes back from that. You take the time, right? He comes back. And then, like, it's kind of like, can you still, like, work at the same level and stuff that you've done before? Or, like, I don't know. Like, but I agree. Like, if you're going to say they have, like, all these kinds of things, or, maybe they're sending them to the wrong medical facilities, or maybe the right ones, because they're able to miraculously recover in the next week or so from, like, all of this damage. But I would like to see that as well, just to be more realistic with stuff.
Yeah.
And also to kind of have, like, ooh, are they going to be, back? Are they like what's going on with that? You want to also know, like, once they both get back, what are they going to do? Like, why are they in a 4-man tag match? Like, if you sent me to the hospital, I don't want to be in a 4-man, like, fatal 4-way. I want to fight you again. Like, it doesn't make any sense,
I hope he says that. I don't want to be in a fatal 4-way. I want to fight you.
No.
I mean, that kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about as well. I wouldn't necessarily say that's outside the realms of PG. Like, I think you can do far more within the realms of PG than people think. However, we are definitely moving outside of those realms because we had Kofi Kingston flip off Samoa Joe on SmackDown. We had Corey Graves say "holy shit" on Raw. Now, look, I'm the first to put my hands up and go, yes, it's a bit juvenile. Of course it is. Swearing within itself is juvenile. Like, sometimes I'll be chatting to a friend and I will say something like, and it fucking annoyed me. And I'll have a moment where I'm like, there was no need for that F word whatsoever. Like, it was utterly redundant and utterly meaningless. You think I do sound a little bit silly by saying that. But I think, look, the rumor is that, yes, this is a step away from being as PG as they've been to, once again, as we talked about, try and make sure the teenagers are there. But I don't mind it. I really don't. There seems to have been a little bit of a backlash now going, oh, it was pathetic. But I think it's how they use it going forward. If we start swearing on every single TV show, I'm going to be bored. Like the wildcard rule, I'll be bored of that in 2 weeks. I'm like, this is ridiculous now. It's transparent. It's not original. Yeah. You've watered down. The whole reason we reacted to it this week is because we're not used to it. But I don't mind. The thing I like about expanding PG a little bit is that you can actually have human beings react like they would have in the real world, right? Sometimes you do swear, and sometimes you do violent things like Braun Strowman did to Bobby Lashley. And, giving a little bit of leeway there, I think, is of assistance to everybody. But I am now worried that, WWE's heavy-handedness will mean, we're going to have Becky Lynch on Raw, I don't know, saying... well, even the Maria Kanellis, is saying I should be given a title for pushing a baby out of my uterus. Like, you don't...
Again, something that real people don't say.
Yeah,
you're not pushing a title. You could put something else in that, but people don't say that.
Yeah, but it was more. You don't really hear verbiage like that on WWE TV. Like,
no,
and it may be. Okay, I get what you're doing. You're trying to shock us. So I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, I kind of want to see what they're going to do with it, and on the other, I worry that again, the people that are in charge of it will run it into the ground. Again, it's in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave Meltzer's been tweeting about it. He said there has absolutely been a discussion backstage to loosen that a lot. But I guess, I don't know. Sometimes I think you have to be more creative in a PG environment. We've been PG for ages and we have had good stories. I don't want it to become too smut TV again. I really don't. I can't handle smut TV. As much as I love the Attitude Era, it was of its time. And if we start doing some of that stuff now, it's going to be unwatchable. I know people don't like hearing that, but a lot of stuff in the Attitude Era is bad news. It just is. It doesn't work. Yeah.
So I just really kind of got into really watching wrestling in the last 2 years or so, and I started going through and watching all the WrestleManias and watching all the pay-per-views and stuff, and the Attitude Era was just hard for me to get through. Thank God for JR. JR was the one source of okay, here's someone who's acting normally while the whole misogyny and Jerry the King Lawler is like a cartoon dog whose eyes are gonna pop out of his face watching all the women, and it's rough. But the thing that concerns me about what WWE is doing right now is that this idea of okay, that was our most popular time, so let's return to those things because we know that worked, it's like, instead of looking to the past, creatively come up with something that creates the next new blah era, like whatever that is. And I feel like they're missing that opportunity to do that by just going back to the tried and true, we did this. Now, this is a billion-dollar business. There are shareholders, and I'm sure they have experts and stuff and people who are looking at, things to do and strategies. And then, you have Vince's input and stuff like that. But it is, like, I am concerned about that as well. I did not like the Kofi Kingston giving the finger thing, because I just felt that wasn't necessarily as true to his character as much. And I'm always a little bit concerned about the cursing, because there was a while, because, like, you can say, like, I don't want to curse on your show, but, you can use the B word basically. And they would just use it, like the women would just use it all the time in a way that it just became laughable to me. Right. And especially during that Nia and like, Alexa or like Charlotte and them, like it just became like, or Charlotte and Becky at the beginning of that thing, that word was used like, like a lot. So it's just this idea of like, okay, we'll do that. But they don't actually create anything new. They're just going back to this old thing. So it is cool from a nostalgia idea that, you do these things again. But if you look at the demographics and who they're saying are watching, if it's the people over 50 and stuff like that, then those people are watching because they will enjoy that, right? And that's not to say that younger viewers, if they're trying to get a teen audience, won't enjoy that. But like, that was edgy for the 90s. Edgy now, I don't even know what it is. Like people do all sorts of crazy stuff now. So like, I just feel like they need to be creative. I don't want them to rest on the laurels of, we did this and this is the Attitude Era stuff was popular. And so the cursing and stuff to me is just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a cop-out a little bit in a way. And I was just like, they have too many creative people to not do something different and do something new. But, they also know that works, right? The Corey at the beginning, I was just like, it did seem stilted. But in that case, I was like, that's a time where you would use that word. Those two people went through a light board. Like, that's like, you can easily see that kind of like slipping out of just like, oh man, like, so to me, that was okay. As we go forward and as we use stuff to, like you said, there has to be a real purpose or a real reason behind it. It's not just dropping those words out of there. But I will say this, I don't know if you've seen the show, The Good Place.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So, like they can't use, like, they can't actually curse. So
I stole it for ups and downs. No one realizes.
So that's where that came from.
Yeah, it made me laugh so much. It's like, I'm going to make my own swear words. That's really funny. I just stole it. It's absolutely stolen from that.
But the one of the things that the creator in like a Comic-Con panel or something said was that they have a lot of kids that watch that show and they think the made up curse words are so hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they love that and they go and they do this on the playground with their friends. So it's not necessarily the do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a curse word, like just the funniness around that. And that was them creating something different. So I'm not saying the WWE has to create their own swear words, because that would be like crazy. But I'm just saying, like, I want them to create something new as opposed to just resting on the laurels of the Attitude Era.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, it kind of ties in. We brought Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff back. We don't know how that's going to do, but it's still looking back. But let's not look back in every area. Let's look forward a little bit. Like, I don't mind the odd little thing here and there. And again, it did work. It got people talking. And I think right now, when your back is against the wall, you do need to try these things. But yeah. I don't need to go back to a complete non-PG era. I just don't. Like, I'm happy to stay there a little bit as long as you give me good stories and you're creative and all the stuff that we talk about all the time when it comes to WWE. So it's gonna be intriguing, but look, apparently, this is what we're going to do. We're gonna shift across. Who knows? I don't know. I'll tell you more on Raw once we've come and gone from Raw next week. If it's full of F words and S words and thongs and bikinis, then I'm going to be like, oh no. No. But we'll wait and see. Right now, I'm happy to give them for the benefit of the doubt. I enjoyed Raw. I thought SmackDown still felt a little bit lost, but hey, it was
stale a little bit.
Yeah, it was.
But the funny thing is expectation, right? So I think, like, there's the idea like, oh, we heard about Heyman and Bischoff, so people are like, oh, I'm going to watch, because people are thinking like this is going to happen right away, and then and then people, you see the Raw, and then you're like, oh, okay. Like, I was actually like really intrigued. I will be totally honest. I had kind of stopped watching Raw and SmackDown for a couple of weeks because it
No,
just got
you got to take a break.
Well, not only just take a break, but it just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this. And I really don't like Lacey and Corbin, and I got tired of seeing them all the time. And so, like, I'll watch recaps, and then, you gladly watch so that we don't have to sometimes, so you can tell us what's going on. And that's good. So you can still, keep up. But I watched this week because I knew I was coming on here and I wanted to see, everything. And I was glad I did watch Raw. And then, like, halfway through SmackDown, I was like, you know what? After I actually am really invested in Aleister Black, so once they showed him in the room again, I was like, I can leave now. I can go. I don't have to watch the rest of this. This is okay. But I think you are going to have people tuning in and wanting to see, like, okay, what are the changes? How are they morphing things? And so they really have to, like, deliver on that, and whether that's slowly building up or like having something completely and totally different. But I feel like, a lot of people have said a lot of the things that they would like to see, like, and even to go back to our conversation earlier, if they build up the tag division, that'll get people watching. If they change the set, that'll probably get people watching. They don't necessarily have to have, like, all the curse words and stuff, but we'll see. Like, maybe for them, that's a short-term good thing that they can do as they work on building up these other things, because those things take time. So I think it's having to give them some breathing room, and also, like, not giving up immediately, which is sometimes, I think, because, like, you see all sorts of crazy stuff on the internet. It's like, oh, that wasn't good. And the Bischoff was like, he hasn't even started yet. Like, so it's, but the thing is like, if you're a casual viewer, you don't know any of that. You have no idea who runs this thing or does any of this. You tune in and you watch. Look, when I've gone to house shows, like, the people there, you have your super fans, and then you have the people who are like, yeah, my kid really likes this. I'm bringing them, or I don't know anything about this. Or then they're surprised that you're there, because they're like, you actually watch this? You know what's going on? And you're like way too much. I don't even want to tell you how much I actually know. Like, oh. So those people will turn in. And if they tune in and they like what they see and stuff like that, they don't have all the background, then they're going to be fine. But for the super fans and the stuff like that, I think they have to. And I think the one thing that they have to do, which is so annoying to me, is Vince using the wrestlers as mouthpieces to like to say what he really wants to say to the WWE universe, like with Sammy and stuff like that. Like, he's amazing. He could like deliver anything, like, promo wise or whatever. But like, his like, turning on the fans and stuff. I was just like, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Like, you really want to get all these people on side. Like, don't do that. Like, even Seth stuff. There's just still a tiny percentage of my brain is like, yes, I know that was him, but a lot of those phrasings and stuff like that sounds like Vince. And I'm just like, I just feel like any other way that they can kind of jab at people, like, don't jab at people for complaining and stuff. Like, just work on creating the best product that you can, and then you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the Seth Rollins stuff was just misjudged a lot. But thankfully, he came out this week and apologized, which I think was also good. Like, we can all make mistakes, but yeah, you got to make sure that you back it up. And, talking about money and stuff like that. But hey, he came out and apologized. Will Ospreay accepted his apology. I got no problem with Seth Rollins come out and defending WWE and thinking that, he's the best and that WWE is the best. He should think that. That's his company.
Your job as the guy. Yeah. The one thing I will say that bothered me about the apology is I was like, ain't no good gonna come to you till you apologize to Moxley. Because he basically said, like, oh, he couldn't cut it, so he took his ball and he went away. And I was like, I don't think that's true. Like, I really, and maybe that's his opinion, so he feels like he doesn't have to apologize for that. But I feel like I don't know. To me, that's that kind of Vince speak and stuff like that. And you've seen that kind of talk, like, even within the shows with some of the wrestlers, or even like, oh my gosh, AJ talking to Gallows and Anderson, just being like, oh, you guys are not cutting it. You're not doing it. Like, as if to say, like, that's the reason why, you guys don't have anything. And I just feel like that's a disservice to someone who he worked with closely for a long time and was giving his best. I do believe that all of them are doing their best, right? And so, like, lift up those people in that way. For him to say that about, I don't know, that still rankles with me.
No, I agree because I mean I'll say there's a problem with WWE. I get it; it's a company mentality, but they obviously look at it like he left us, screw him, right?
Screw him, yeah. But
the thing is.
I guess what I'm saying is like that's true, and maybe there's only so much like maybe Seth could say as Seth the top guy and spokesperson and company person versus Seth the person who probably traveled on the road with. I don't know how close they really were, but I don't know. I just think from like human being to human being, colleague to colleague, like I don't think you should like put them down. But I do understand it's like they left the company, so it's like they're dead to you. We scratched his photo out of the family album, basically.
Yeah, cuts it out, yeah. No, and I think the problem I had with this, well, the problem's not the right word, but the shock I had with this one was just he left in perfectly the right way. He really just left his job. And I know that there's a weird stigma in pro wrestling where this kind of stuff happens, but people are allowed to leave their jobs. If he's not happy, it doesn't mean that you're wrong and he's right. It just means that's what he wanted to do at the time. So, he dropped his ball, took his ball and went home. You're like, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
He just did.
It's just their stories, their continued story, and they diverge in different directions. And who knows, down the road he may come back. Who knows, like if things are different. But the thing that really got me in listening to the Moxley interview was like he was mentally like depressed. He was having physical symptoms of like the dealing with that situation and it being toxic for him. So it was time for him to leave. And I'm with you. Like he did that in the most professional manner possible, right? He did all this stuff. He put people over. He was, willing to do the stuff with Nia before the sponsors were like, no, we don't want to see that. Like he did everything. He waited out his time. He did all the weird victory laps they wanted him to do. Like, he did everything. I think it's spiteful on their end because it's kind of like we can't suck any more money out of the Shield now. Like that, because that was also their little safety net. It's like, oh, things are going bad. Let's reform the Shield. Like, and they can't. So in that way, for them to maybe not think that like Dean Ambrose was like worth something to them as anything more than like a comedy, like, wrestler or whatever. It was like he actually did leverage what I don't think this was like on purpose, but he actually managed to leverage what power he had because by leaving, he denies them the ability to bring the Shield back. And that's kind of amazing. Like there was that table of three or whatever with them, and they were like, oh, we're all Beyonce. And I was like, oh no, you're not all Beyonce and Destiny's Child. Vince thinks Roman is Beyonce. And like maybe Seth is Kelly Rowland, and like I don't know, like that's and I think that's part of it. I think that was part of it as well. It was like, there was an opportunity. Seth's actually been able to carve himself an identity out of that and away from that and away from Roman, which is really nice. But they didn't do the same for him. And so I think that, like you say, you're unhappy with your job. It's making you not, feel well. Then you need to really take care of yourself and see what other opportunities are there, But that's actually, it's weird. It's good for WWE as well. They can't rely on another Shield reunion. They're going to have to like come up and do something else, which is the other thing I don't understand, because since the Shield was so popular and they made so much money off of them, why they don't reform some more stables. Like I would love to see them kind of do like a New Japan thing where you have like these stables where they might not necessarily be like together all the time in like a 4 person tag team match all the time, like as a stable, but the stables exist and people have an affiliation to one of them or not. But, that could be fun too. Like, how do you recruit these people to come over here versus over there? Or like, this is the heel stable. And so like, these people have their back and these people, like, there's so much great things and fun things they could do with that. Like, I would love to see that. And then they could make a ton of money if they hit the right, combination of stuff. So,
well, I quite like the idea. Like, there was that tease on Main Event a couple of weeks ago, whenever the hell it was, for they put Cesaro, Bobby Roode, and EC3 together. They had a stupid name like Main Event Muscle Men, or at least I think that's what Renee Young called them. But I genuinely think if you do that right, maybe not call them Main Event Muscle Men, but take a bunch of guys that aren't doing anything. Don't League of Nation them. Actually come up with a really good idea, a really good gimmick that benefits them, puts them in front of the camera. You again, like we talked about Andrade and Zelina Vega, uses them to become more than they are separately, so we can forget about all the nonsense that we saw before. There's something in that. That's why I like the three-way championship in New Japan, because it gives those guys something to fight for when really you can't get them on a card individually. And I want to see more of EC3. I want to see more of Bobby Roode. I definitely want to see more of Cesaro. So there's no reason not to do that. There's Rusev, there's Shinsuke Nakamura, there's so many names that, Cedric. You could put Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy as a tag team. I don't think they would work necessarily as well as they do singular, but if you're not going to do that, there's two guys right there. They've come from 205 Live. They've they work in a similar way, kind of. They have potential there, and yet we don't do it. But no, the return of the state. Look, if we want to turn the clock back and look backwards, Attitude Era and when Nitro was banging, everybody had stables. NWO, DX. Yeah, the Disciples of Apocalypse, Nation of Domination. That's just four off the top of my head. There were loads. And if you think they worked then and you're trying to pull more, that is actually something you could pull out from then that I'd want to see come back. I think that actually would be a benefit.
And I think if they want a younger audience, I think younger people would be interested in that, right? Because if you think about teenagers and stuff, you want to feel like you belong to something. And so having this stable of these people are together and they belong, I don't know. I think that could work. I know that they say that Vince doesn't like stables, so they don't have them, but I was just they need to do different stuff, and maybe that's a way that they differentiate themselves from AEW as well, having that setup. But you can still do the single stuff, and like you said, it gets other people on TV, and there's lots of opportunities for storylines, and it's kind of a shame that they have so many good people who have basically are pictures on a milk carton now, like Rusev, Nakamura. But I forgot about Bobby Roode. I forgot he even existed until you just said it. I was like, oh yeah, him.
He's great. He's great. He's got rid of his moustache as well. He's not Robert Roode anymore. He's back to Bobby Roode. He's got his moustache. His moustache is gone.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is if you're gonna have people do gimmicks or change things like that, give them the opportunity, give them more time, or you know what I mean, to see whether things work, or let them fine tune stuff. It just seems like it's we try this for 1 week, okay, now I'll just go back to this the next week. I don't know. It's funny. It's they have all the stuff there to do amazing things. It's just they have to be allowed to do it. The other thing that I would love to say, this is a total aside just from that, just thinking about all the things that they have in their arsenal, is when they go to Fox, they should bring back Talking Smack. I don't care if it's the segment in the middle or something. I don't know how they could do it, but I want Talking Smack back. I feel like that was so good, and it allowed people to develop, even though it was not in the ring or on the show, to develop characters, and it got you interested in people and stuff like that. I think they need something like that as well. That would be really cool. Maybe it's a couple of segments or something on the actual SmackDown show, or I don't know. They should bring that back.
Apparently, they're going to have some kind of behind the scenes show on FS1. That's the rumor. That's the rumor. Okay. I don't know whether it's going to be Talking Smack or whether it's going to be more serious. I don't know. I don't know. But that's the rumor. That's the rumor that we may get that. So we'll find out. We'll find out. But I would like that too. Talking Smack just brought a lot of fun, even when there wasn't necessarily fun to be had from the show. If they had a bad show, they made their fun out of it. And I think...
Oh, yeah. You would say, I can't wait to see Talking Smack just to see,
to see what they're going to do. Yeah, what's the Mr. Daniel Bryan going to do? You made your own stories. Yeah, you made your own stories, exactly. So... Yeah. Well, look, we're not that far away. It's July the 4th, so we are literally, what we got, July... August, 3 months today. 3 months today when SmackDown moves to Fox. So, yeah, the countdown is on. Get ready for your Friday nights, hopefully, to be turned upside down as WWE actually smashes it. We will find out. All right, okay.
And I want them to do well. I want them to do well. Also, I don't know if people know this, but Fox has a tendency, if you don't get good ratings out of the boat, they're at the gate, you're gone. So I want this to do well for them, so that it continues on, because the list of things that Fox has canceled, like 1 week or like 2 weeks, it's like, oh my god. So, but I think there's going to be tons of people watching, and there's other thing too, like if there are people who are watching AEW, like it's not like you're only going to watch one or the other. Like I think there's going to be people watching both. Maybe people who are brought onto the watching the product that way will meander over to the WWE stuff and vice versa. But it's all good.
And they should go watch everything. Go watch Impact. Impact's really good right now. But
Yeah,
nobody watches
I
it
just
because
they're going to be on Access, and I was like, that's great. So like, I have Access, and I've actually been watching. They have like all the New Japan stuff on Friday nights, and they're actually going to show the G1 live on Saturday. I was like, this is amazing.
How good is that? See, it's a good time.
So like, they put Impact on, like you can have all of that like on like, you can have it all on one night. Like they have like a fight night or whatever, like on Fridays. So like that could be like perfect. Impact, you got your, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They show the Women of Wrestling on there as well. So the whole thing.
Exactly. We're all getting that. By the end of the year, you should have access to all your favorite pro wrestling shows. Enjoy it. And guess what? If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. There'll 100% be something else you can tune into. Easy as that. Simple as that. And on that positive note, Lanaya, I will leave it there with you, because I like ending on a positive note. I want to thank you again, not only for coming on, but always just being such a nice person to talk to.
Oh,
I enjoy it.
I enjoy it. You as well.
You have lovely opinions, and you're always positive. And I'm just like, yes, this is how all wrestling should be. If only all wrestling was like this, it would be a lot better.
Well, it's my pleasure talking to you as always.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Again, if you want to come on the podcast, you can. Check out patreon.com/Simon316. Go to YouTube, youtube.com/The Report Rules, or you can search for Simon Miller. Give me a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Like me, I'll follow whatever it's called these days on Instagram and Twitter as Simon316. Wrestling merchandise, simonmiller.bigcartel.com. And also, if you're in the area this weekend, if you're in the Buckinghamshire, Berkshire area, you'd like to come see me wrestle, I am. I'm wrestling for New Force Wrestling. Going to go in there, make my debut, kick some ass, finally wrestling down south. I got a bunch more dates coming up. Again, keep an eye on my Twitter. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the podcast too if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whatever. But I will talk to you again very soon.